Well, welcome everyone. This is the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Shawn Langwell and I am your host. And for the first time, I don't have my notes in front of me, so we're going to wing that part. But I am going to tell you the purpose of this podcast really was to bring together people from all walks of industry and life. That can be arts, entertainment, yoga instructors, authors, athletes, CEOs, executives, performing artists, the entire gamut. And being great is a subjective term. People are great in all different areas of their life, not necessarily by their vocation. The purpose of this podcast is to bring people into the show to have conversations about what they've done with their process for the one purpose of trying to help inspire and encourage other people to take a chance on themselves. Ergo, dare to be great, dare to be you. I have, we all have a very rare opportunity today. We have Mary Ellen Whitten, who just published a book and is doing a book talk tomorrow. I don't know if this is going to hit in time, but she's a local author in Petaluma. The book is entitled Lean Into Your Light. Welcome, Mary Ellen.
Thank you. What a great intro.
So I have some notes here on your bio. Let me just do a little highlight here and then I'll have you fill in the blanks. How about that? Because I'm not going to read all this. People get bored to death if I just keep reading and reading, reading. But
No problem.
so in terms of this book, as Mary Ellen began to overcome her struggles with self-worth, doubt, and negativity, she learned the most valuable lesson that even in the darkest moments, we all have the power to change our reality. Becoming aware of language you use when you think and speak and how your deepest beliefs make you feel. Her breakthrough came when she realized that personal transformation wasn't about changing anything external, but about shifting her inner dialogue. It wasn't about waiting for life to give her permission to shine. It was about deciding to step into her own light, regardless of what was happening around her. Her book, just for those who don't know and haven't gotten it yet, won an International Impact Award and has been featured in several magazines, including Women's Reporter, CEO Times, and Women's Insider. So, welcome, Mary Ellen. There's a lot that we're going to talk about in prepping for this podcast. You and I share a lot of common interests and have parallel paths, and that's always fun when we get into a conversation on the show. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, tell me a little bit about the motivation. I mean, writing a book is a daunting task. I mean, the book is about dealing with some of the imposter syndrome stuff. So let's just start there. What was this process like for you as a first-time author, and in particular, writing about things of doubt and negative self-talk and all that stuff?
Right. Well, it was truly an organic process. I joke and I say I'm an accidental author who wrote a book backwards, um, because I didn't set out to write a book. I had my own personal, um, I really try to avoid the word struggles, but that's really what they were that happened a lot because of 2008. I lost my business, which was a beloved yoga studio that I had put all my eggs in one basket, and that basket broke. And that was a long, painful path. And I eventually lost my house, which I've really not told too many people about because that also hurt. But weirdly enough, I'm grateful for that now. So what happened was about 7 years ago, maybe eight at this point, my adult daughter, at the time she was about 20 or 21, was in her own negative phase. And whenever she called or texted me, mostly texted, she'd say, and it was like a mantra of hers, I am stressed, I am disappointed, I am frustrated. And it was pretty much daily and it was constant. And she knows this because she grew up with me. I reminded her, I go, honey, when you put something like that out, that kind of energy, you're inviting more of that back into your experience. And while she knew it, cognitively, emotionally, she was just out in left field. So one day, out of the blue, kind of, right, I got an inspiration to text her positive I am statements instead of the I am frustrated, I am disappointed, I am stressed. And they came from some magical place because I didn't look them up. I didn't struggle to find the right words. They just came to me and I just talked to text in my phone, right? So I had this long thread of these beautiful I am statements, and then I cleaned them up. They were exactly three words: I am expansive, I am forgiven, I am forgiving, I am creative, I am loved, I am patient. It was random, and they all came up. So I text them to her, and I'm really excited for her to get this and be like, oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Thanks, mom, right? It didn't work out that way. So about 2 days later, when I finally reconnected with her, I go, honey, did you read the thread that I sent you of those nice I am statements? She's like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, nice. Okay. And I thought about it for a bit, and I'm like, well, how can I get through to her? And she loves to read. So I thought, why don't I write her a book of just the I am statements? So I drove to Target and I bought a blank artist sketchbook, and I bought a gold Sharpie, and I just went to the text thread and wrote them all in this book. And then I saw her shortly after that, and I gave her the book. And genuinely, I could tell she was very grateful and very appreciative, and really liked the effort that I put into that for her. And then she left and she forgot it on the kitchen table.
So what do you remember? Because I mean, I do you remember a couple of what those initial I am statements are, or one or two that you want to share?
Probably I am forgiven, because she was
Mhm.
beating herself up a lot for her own personal mistakes and things like that. And I thought that was really important for her to realize that no matter, and she didn't do anything that terrible, she didn't murder anybody, but, forgive yourself. I am forgiven.
Yeah,
So, you
that's
know,
powerful, and that's a real hard. It's a hard one for a lot of people, and the reason I asked that question too is a lot of what you write and what I've written in 10 Seconds of Boldness, which just incidentally in parallel, that inspiration came from literally a post-it note that I wrote on a post-it note the words, three words, 10 seconds of boldness. And that was my own little I am motivational statement to finish pushing through some of the own self-doubt that I have. But um, let's talk. We'll go into some of more of the detail, but let's talk about bridging the gap as a parent and being able to reach your daughter. And I don't know, have you read the five love languages? Or have you even heard of that book?
I think I've heard of it, but I'm not sure if I've read that one.
It may be something you want to check out. I don't remember. I can't quote it off the top of my head, but one of them is words of affirmation. And it's also how we are able to connect with people in their love language. Some people like, words of affirmation or affection, whatever that happens to be. But choosing to know what your daughter likes to read and putting that in the book with I am statements is a form of communication that has the ability to reach people in a really powerful way. So was that a conscious choice just to incorporate that in the book, or was it to get it out there and reach your daughter? I mean, talk a little bit more about that.
It was 100% for her,
Okay.
solely for her, to kind of get through to her, because I know watching a video, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Reading a book, I mean, that's how she connects. She loves books. Like, she reveres books. You can't dog mark, what do you call it? Dog,
Dog ear.
dog ear. You can't do that. If that's an absolute no-no in her world. They're sacred to her. And that's why I chose that rather than sitting and having a conversation, which I did do with her, because you can take the book everywhere. You put it in your bag, you put it in your backpack, you just bring it. And when you need it, which is for her all the time, pull it out, get off your phone, get off Facebook, get off all that stuff, right? Send your attention in here.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about what's in the book beyond the I am statement. So go ahead and we started to talk about your own blocks, but it became an opportunity to reach your daughter. But let's talk about the content of the book and how you structured it, and also some of the challenges from an author perspective, because there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast who are authors or aspiring authors. It's just kind of how it happens organically because I'm writing books too. So walk people through a little bit of that process and what some of the conscious choices were that you made in structuring this book.
Okay, so how it worked for me is talk about post-it notes. Like you put your 3 words on a post-it. I had post-it notes everywhere with ideas, and they were all over the house. I looked a little bit like a crazy person. And I realized they were too small for me. So I got poster boards and I hung poster board, I taped them up on the walls. And that's how it eventually came to be organized, right? It was completely unorganized at first, and I didn't care. And I'm
Mhm.
like pretty meticulous about that kind of stuff. And something inside me said, just trust that it's all going to fall. It's like throwing it all up in the air and it's all going to land perfectly where it needs to go. And I still really wasn't all about publishing a book. I was doing it a lot for myself. Like, why does this work? How does it work? How does energy work? How does vibration work? How does saying certain words affect yourself and those around you? The ripple
Mhm.
effect with that. And it took me about 7 years to do it. And I would have, maybe similar to you and other writers that are listening, I'd have waves. I'd get a wave of inspiration, of creativity, and I would ride that wave. It could be 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. And then it would just kind of, it wouldn't crash. It would just kind of go away. And I didn't fight it, which I fight everything.
Oh, yeah, it's human nature, I think, to want to fight stuff. It takes practice to be able to learn to detach and let things fall where they may. I mean, some people, I have just I have post-it notes everywhere, and it gets to the point where I feel overwhelmed and I have to take them all down, but I don't want to let them go, so I just throw them in an envelope and stuff them over here. But when my wife comes in my office, she's like, "How in the hell can you think straight and get all this?" It's just some people that's like, "I can't do it." But talk about this because there are a ton of people out there, whether they're authors or writers or not. That's why I asked the question about process. Everybody has a process, and there is no one right way to do anything. And in writing, when I first started learning, there's pantsers and there's plotters. There's people that want to plot everything out, map it out to the detail, do character bios down here. And then there's people that are a little bit more free spirits that just want to use a sales term, you have a sales background too. They want to show up and throw up and just get it all out there. But in order to put it into a book, you kind of got to organize it. So um, the point that I'm trying to make is what is it in trusting your process that you're going to get there? In other words, the methodology and the strategy is what a lot of people get hung up on. But you already said it in the first 10 minutes of this podcast episode, dropping down to a level where you just know, and then you're riding that creative wave. So how do you do that? Because a lot of people don't understand that. They still think that they have to do more or that it's not good enough.
Just having this conversation made me realize, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mhm.
I didn't know. I didn't know like there's a certain way you're supposed to do this. And I'm not a random person at all. I do like to plan things and be methodical and meticulous pretty much and all of that. But this was like, because I didn't have a plan to follow, I didn't have step one, step two. This is how you do things, Mary Ellen. You do it in this order, blah, blah, blah. It was kind of willy-nilly, and it worked.
And it worked.
And it worked.
We're going
So,
to repeat that because I've covered this realization too. You're there. You just finished the book. You're doing a book event tomorrow. But not everybody gets a chance to come to this realization, Mary Ellen, until they actually do it. And that's the key difference. You wrote a book. How many millions of people out there across the world thought about wanting to write a book, started writing a book, never finished writing a book, beat themselves up because they didn't want to finish writing the book, 100 million different ways, but you did it and you trusted your process. And in that trust, your confidence grows. So kind of,
oh, off the charts. Like my self-confidence. So after I told you that sad story of my yoga studio and my house, I had like zero self-confidence. and I'm in sales. One of the
Hmm.
many hats I wear. It's not good to have no self-confidence and be in sales. And, I beat myself up for, things I could have done better. But it truly just took time. So I just wanted to backtrack for a moment about the book. I didn't set out to write the book, right? So what happened was I wrote it for my daughter. She left it on the counter by accident and she left. This is why I wrote a book. Her girlfriend stopped by a couple of days later just to visit. It's sitting on the counter. She picked it up and she goes, "What's this?" I told her the story I told everybody earlier. And she thumbs through it and she was like, "Oh my God, I want one. I need one. Can I have one?" And I said, "I will write one for you, but you can't take that one because I wrote that especially for my daughter." And talk about Groundhog Day. I'm driving to Target. I go to the exact same artist sketchbook. I'm driving home and I'm like, huh, maybe there's something to this that other people would find value in. And that was my first kind of spark that maybe I should continue on this path. And the way it unfolded was nothing that could have been predicted at all.
Hmm.
And that's the trusting
And
the process.
and that's hard. I want to expand on it. You backed into it. You had an explicit years in sales, so you can relate, should be able to relate to some of these things, but you found an explicit need and an implied need directly to wanting to help your daughter. And you did this thing out of love and you put it together, and then somebody else saw it. And then you saw an opportunity, and all marketing and all sales is about matching wants and needs and desires with something of value that somebody else wants to pay money for. That's sales and marketing 101, right? But you didn't have to overthink any of it, and you trusted your process. And the reason I'm kind of hammering this home is there's a lot of people out there that get so stuck up here in trying to become successful as authors, as marketers, as yoga professionals, as whatever it is that somebody's interested in, that it's easy to forget and go back to the core sweet spot of who we are as human beings and that spiritual core and trusting our gut.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, was there any doubt? You didn't know what you didn't know. You already said that, but was there any doubt after her friend came to you of once you started turning this into a book of what would become of it? Did you start getting into expectation land, for example?
I didn't so much go into expectation land, it was doubt. I'd have these moments. First, I'd be riding high on my creativity wave and just feeling kind of high, for lack of a better word, like on endorphins or whatever you want to call it. And when that creative wave would just kind of dissipate, I would have moments of doubt. Like, what if this is really stupid? What if nobody wants it? What if one person reads it? And that's when I had the conversation with myself. I said, you know what? If you can help, truly help one person all the time, all the effort, if you can transform one person's life, then it's all worth it. And the person who it transformed more than anybody else was myself.
Hmm. I'm glad to hear you say that because that is the truth, right? We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We're sometimes the last ones to understand that. And this process, from my own experience, the process has changed me. It's made me a better human, but it's also made me a better salesperson and a better author. And I hear you saying that for yourself. In what ways did it change you?
I I feel like I've really evolved into myself, if that makes sense, right? Through this learning process, there's also a vulnerability of putting out a book or a poem or anything like that that tells your story, that might tell some of your deepest regrets or deepest secrets or things you're ashamed of. And still in the beginning I was still a little hesitant, and now I'm like, I don't care in a good way, you know like, hey, this is me. And if we have an honest conversation for all of everybody's success, whatever that means to you in your life, we all got that stuff in the rearview mirror. You know,
Hmm.
we messed up, we made a mistake, we really blew it, right? And for me, when I came, and I call it the tapestry of our life, when we can come together with the good, the bad, the ugly, at least for me, in my opinion, and just weave it all together and accept that, yeah, that happened and that happened, that probably 80-90% of what's happened to me and you and everybody that's listening has been good stuff, right? Positive. Number one, we're still here.
Yeah.
All the opportunities to not be here. I was in 2 car accidents that should have killed me. God's like, I ain't done with you. You
Hmm.
can't come up here yet. And now I embrace that. I embrace my flaws and go, okay, yeah, so I messed up.
And on the other side of this, you talked about it earlier, but you wrote through the waves, and that, I mean, for anybody who's has experience in sales, you may understand this too. There's momentum that happens. There's the doubt, and most salespeople I know don't want to make cold calls, for example. If they do, I say they're full of shit because they just are. I don't know anybody that says wakes up in the morning and say, I can't wait to make cold calls.
Nope.
The inevitabilities of the doubt, they happen regardless of what our background is. But how, when you're riding the wave, you're able to build the momentum and keep going. But how do you handle it when those shifts happen and you're in a funky space? Besides just I am statements, are there things in your book that talk about lifting your own self up or lifting other people up and how to process some of those negatives, that negative self-talk, um, and navigating the uncertainties of life, if you will?
Well, we all have negative self-talk. For me personally, I'm kind of freaking out because I'm looking at my laptop and my battery might die, and I'm house sitting and I don't know where the light switches are. So I'm not sure what's going to happen here.
Right. I saw
Um,
the look of fear on your face and I wasn't going to say anything. And then you said that. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on? The dog's.
yeah, I'm like, oh God, I hope it doesn't. Um, to me, it comes down to awareness, right? When you become self-aware of your negative self-talk, or maybe your negative, not self-talk, maybe the way you talk to somebody else in your life. Once I started to realize and put a name to it, I'm feeling doubt right now.
Mm.
I am feeling like giving up right now. I, like my daughter, I am feeling stressed. I am feeling disappointed. I forgot the other one, I am anxious. I think the key for me was A, awareness, and B, to recognize it as a feeling, right? So when you say I am loved, you want to become love. You want to embody the experience of love more than just the feeling, right? But when it comes to those kind of lower end emotions, who wants to become fear? Who wants to
Right.
become stress? Who wants to become doubt? And that's the language, like you read that quote when we started. When I started to turn my own internal dialogue around because I realized I'm going down that rabbit hole, Mary Ellen, get out of that rabbit hole as quickly as possible. And that was a process that's taken years. I'm at a point now when I catch myself going down the negative Nelly route, I'm like, girlfriend, turn it around. And now I can do it in a minute or two.
And it's a conscious choice too, and it's a practice. It's much like yoga, much like any type of exercise, much like anything in life. The habits come from continuous practice and awareness. First phase is really being aware of what's going on and paying attention. Um, there's also a tendency for people to identify. I'm channeling inner Tony Robbins from UPW. I know you follow him, but it's just like, what is the identity? What is the state? What are the emotions? What are the feelings underneath all this stuff? And when we attach so much of who we are to how we are behaving with other people, it's easy to lose sight of who we really are. And like you were just saying, you go down to the lower level of emotions, then it's real easy to get stuck in that lower energy frequency space of I am sad. And there's nothing wrong. The challenge that I see is a lot of people put a value on emotion as good or bad. Quite honestly, it's bullshit. It is what it is, right?
Mhm.
So when we're down in here, you talked about awareness, but can you talk a little bit about the acceptance and the resilience of understanding this and sitting with it for a minute and how you pull yourself? What tools do you use? Maybe writing, maybe journaling, maybe prayer, meditation, yoga. What tools do you use to help reframe and reprogram that negative thought process?
For me, it's mostly getting out and moving, whether it's on my mountain bike, whether I'm walking slash hiking. For me, it's movement. If I've been sedentary, if I've been sitting at my desk and I find my, or wherever, and I can find myself fall, maybe something's happened and I fall into the downward spiral, I get myself and outside, right? Sometimes I'm inside, I get on my yoga mat, it's a rainy day or something or cold or whatever. But that helps me. It moves energy, basically, right? Any
Right.
kind of movement moves energy, right? And then once I've gotten myself into a better feeling place, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, depending on what's going on, I personally find I can process anything better, right? I make sure that I'm hydrated. I make sure I eat, and I eat pretty well. All of that affects your mood, right? If you find yourself in some negative space and you just like had a bunch of junk food. They call it junk food for a reason. It's really hard to elevate your emotional processing, right? So
Mhm.
it's really not just one thing, it's a combination of pretty much just taking care of yourself, like drinking lots of water, like you're doing.
I know it's easy to forget that in the sedentary part too. I mean, I work remotely out of my house and I'm writing early in the morning and I have to consciously make an effort. We feel it. Let's go back to awareness. So it's you talking, but does a thought come up when you realize your energy's dropping that you need to do something and make a shift?
Not always, but I catch myself feeling not good,
Mhm.
right? I generally tend to feel kind of depressed and isolated is
Mhm.
probably a word, and negative.
Yeah.
And it's something I've had to teach myself. Oh wow, you need to eat something. You haven't had any food for 6 hours, and that doesn't mean I don't eat fast food, but it doesn't mean going to McDonald's or whatever. You're having a healthy meal right off the bat. That can make you feel better, right?
And proper rest, diet, movement. There's another thing that we haven't talked about that I learned in recovery. You said you read my first book, Beyond Recovery, but a big part of that healthy mindset is not the isolation, which you already talked about, but it's getting outside of yourself and helping somebody else just for a minute. Because when we're in that isolated space, it's easy to start the downward spiral and trying to think our way out of whatever that situation is. And you already talked about it. Movement, diet, drinking some water, getting out in nature. Those are simple things that everybody has 100% control over that is internally focused and an internal decision, not an external factor, which you allude to in your book. I haven't had a chance to read your book yet, but just doing some cursory research, there's this yin and yang, if you will, of external influence and internal influence. And tell us a little bit more about the title of the book, Lean into Your Light.
Oh boy, probably like you did. I grappled with the title. Do you know how many URLs I bought from GoDaddy? I'm like, that's the new title. That's the new title. I'm gonna go buy that domain while I can. Whole other story about finding my publisher. But anyway, was led towards my publisher, Carol Pesce. She's amazing. She came up with it. I sent, had a conversation with her, told her the story I told you about writing the book. She goes, send me the manuscript. I sent it over and she typed back. She's like, lean into your light. I'm like, there we go. That was the easiest part of the whole book process.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because I grappled with trying to come up with mine and it was the obvious thing and I'm going, what do I call it? It's like goal setting, this, that, and the other. Because originally it was going to be a goal setting book, and I, like you, I had to sit on it, and life happened. I had to sit on it for 5 years because I had to work through some shit. How could I write a book on goal setting when I wasn't hitting my sales goals? I felt like an imposter, and I'm like, let's see how this plays out. And I worked through it, and that became the book, but it was a post-it note. And I'm like, well, there's the title. Why screw around? There's the title right there.
Mm-hmm.
It stuck. So um we're coming up on the time here, but I want to do a couple things. I don't think this is going to be ready. I can throw it out 100% unedited, which I usually do, and get this out there so you can use it as a tool if you want to for your event tomorrow. I don't always do this, but because of the timing and we put this together on short notice, I'm willing to do that for you. But where else and what else can people do to connect with you if they're not able to make this event tomorrow? And where can they find your book and learn more about you?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. There's always my website. It's lean into your book. It's lean into your light book.com because somebody had that other one. So it's lean into your light book.com. If you're local here in the North Bay, anybody can find me. They know where I teach. I teach in Sonoma. You can always be my guest anytime at a yoga class. But yeah, just go to the website. There's an email address there. I mean, I'll just throw out my personal one. It's my full name, Mary Ellen Witten 108 at Gmail. Feel free to reach out that way or come tomorrow night to Usher Gallery.
And it's Whitton, correct?
It's ON. Yeah.
Got it. And Usher Gallery, where's that? One Petaluma Boulevard?
1 Petaluma Boulevard North. It's right in downtown Petaluma, just a couple of, it's on the same block as the Mystic Theater
Oh,
and
that's
McNear's.
great.
It's a darling little gallery, and they support, for the most part, local artists and authors. That's their focus for being.
This is great. I have other stuff going on. I will not be able to make it there tomorrow night. I'm going to be doing a similar event that you already know about up at Copperfields on the following Friday on the 29th for my book chill. But I'm super, super appreciative that we got a chance for you to have your first podcast
Yay! Thank you.
and walk through some of this. And I look forward to your success and our paths crossing down the road here. Because when there's a couple people and more oars in the water, helping to move and navigate and guide people through the choppiness of life, that's a noble cause, Mary Ellen. It's a very noble cause. It started out something very personal for you. And now you're dipping your toe into the waters of expanding that with visibility and possibly helping far more than one more person, far more than one more person, far more than yourself, and far more than your daughter. And it's been a delight to have you on the show. Do you have anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me, and I'm going to see you at your book event at
Oh,
Copperfield. I have it on my calendar.
I'm so stoked. Well, folks, this has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. I am your host, Shawn Langwell. We've been visiting for the last few minutes with Mary Ellen Whitten, who is the author of Lean Into Your Light. It's available, I assume, wherever books are sold. Is that correct?
It's almost everywhere, but it's definitely on Amazon and at Usher Gallery.
Usher Gallery. And you have some, are you selling a PDF directly on your website too, or is that just the link to the other spots?
I hadn't thought about that, about the
Well,
PDF, so
do that later. I'm not trying to throw a monkey wrench in there, but folks, there's a reason why we did this. When I saw that Mary Ellen had a book about overcoming self-doubt and building self-confidence and all this stuff, I'm like, what better way for us to do it live and in real time than having a first time podcaster on the show to walk through this? So, as an aside, you did a fantastic job. It's
Thank you.
just dropping down into what you know. But for anybody else who has doubts about their own ability to present themselves in a public forum, what would you say to those people who have never done this before, just having done it?
Lean into your light.
And you took the bait. I love it. Bam! I did not could have script that any better. You just took
That
it
was not
and ran with it.
scripted. That was not
That was
scripted.
not planned, folks. That's the beauty of leaning into your light is the most unexpected things in life happen when you get out of your own freaking head and
Get
show
out
up.
of your own way. Move
So,
away.
Mary Ellen, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am literally going to let this drop and I am going to email you both files and I'll load it as soon as it's ready. So you have it to push out today if you want. Okay?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. And I look forward to meeting you on next Friday.
Absolutely, folks. It's been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. I am your host, Shawn Langwell. We'll see you next time.